In the last two videos, I've spoken about living thinking and suggested some possibilities and possibly even illustrated them. You might think this is a solo exercise, but no, not necessarily. You can have living thinking occurring in the process of conversation. In fact, it occurred to me as I was making the video that in essence I was having a conversation with myself, because I got the screen towards me and I'm watching myself talking. So it's like having a conversation in the mirror, except that it's being recorded. So there's nothing to stop you having a conversation with your peers, except trying to deepen that conversation. Try to make it about something worthy and significant, something which reflects the good, the beautiful and the true. In previous videos I've alluded to, well in fact mentioned, this idea of the field, that we don't exist as little sort of sacks of flesh walking about the place solely, but actually we exist in a broader field from which we get, you could say it's a life field, an information field. It's intelligent, it leads us into situations which we couldn't foresee, which may be meaningful coincidences. I very much doubt that there are people out there who have never sort of had an event where they've turned around and thought, well, what are the chances of that happening? Obviously it's got to be a meaningful event, something that is significant. So probably most of us have had that experience, and probably we've had it many times, and it just tends to sink into the background and we give it no further thought. So the basic idea here is that by consciously trying to engage in a sense with this field, I don't want it to sound too religious. I mean, there are many religious ways of describing it, and there's also possibly scientific ways of describing it as well. Rupert Sheldrake and his morphic fields comes to mind instantly. But, you know, quantum fields, all these kind of things, words that people bandy about. We don't necessarily know what they mean, but, you know, we bandy them about to sound clever. The point is that if we're using our own experience, it's something we know for a fact. It's something that can't be taken from us, it can't be argued out, really, if it's a significant enough event. So we try to deepen the conversation we have with another person. We avoid, shall we say, using stock ideas. We don't allow them, in a gentle way of course, to get away with simply parroting stuff. We want to know, we need to generate our own, what we really think sincerely, and to be objective, to, as I say, have a meaningful conversation, to deepen that conversation. Now my contention is that in doing so, thoughts occur to us which never occurred to us before. They may come from the other person, or they may come while we are talking. Thoughts which actually could be life-changing, or at least take us in a different direction. We could be triggered in ways that we would not have otherwise imagined going. And so what we're doing is we're growing as individuals Now, obviously there's a benefit to growing as an individual, but growing as an individual is also changes, shall we say, the collective. We change. Other people quite possibly notice a change. We have different and better conversations. Somehow we change the mental, spiritual, whatever, the atmosphere around us. And so we perhaps, well, I would say very, very likely we attract other people, we attract new people, we attract new situations. So we have an effect on the environment simply by expressing and evolving our thinking. Now the key word is living. Living things evolve and grow. And as our thinking evolves and grows, so does our expression in this world, on this plane, however you want to view that. Our manifestation changes, and it also influences people around us. We are, I'm convinced, and I don't need to be a great brain to work out, that we are in a battle with evil. Everything is indicating heading that way. There is a tendency towards dehumanizing us, to making us mere cogs in the machine. And it's not just one issue. There are many things, but they're all heading in the same direction. In a sense, they, the hierarchy exploiting you, are already attacking us on the mental plane through propaganda and through the media, through attempting to make us think the thoughts and think in the way that they want us to think. I just don't see how anybody could possibly deny this. So one way we can in fact fight back, though fight isn't quite the right word, what we need to do is actually stand above it, to reach for higher thoughts. There is the old saying which was attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt, but actually I think it was somebody called Butler who originated it. The idea that the not too bright minds talk about people, the mediocre minds talk about events, and the great minds talk about ideas. And so we need to be operating on the level of ideas. Perhaps those ideas affect events, but the people aren't so much involved in it. Oh, just got to decline something. So there may be people in politics who we vilify, shall we say, but it's not really them. They're just a mere cipher. They just stand in for somebody else. They are just the tools as much as anybody else who's mindlessly working for the system. So it's not that we should necessarily hate them. We may not be too keen on what they're doing, but we have to rise above the personal animosity towards them. And in doing so, we see that it's the evil behind which is the issue. So how do you combat evil? Well, you reach for the good. You reach for the higher principle, for the good, the beautiful and true. And one way you can do this, as I have said, is through living thinking, because living thinking evolves. So we want it to, it's trying to think, it's all very well to use this word living. I'm trying to explain it in a way that is actually meaningful. So, okay, you have a conversation with somebody and various thoughts occur to you, and the conversation afterwards goes round in your head, or maybe a few days later something occurs to you and your thinking changes. Your thinking has evolved, and with it, so has your outlook. So essentially you have evolved, you have grown. This is living thinking. You haven't, it's not like a machine where, you know, the machine is installed and the only way to change it is to upgrade it or replace it. You have actually grown into something different by taking on the living thought. And this changes the ambience. As I say, it'll bring different people and situations, and you'll have different conversations because you have grown. Now, on a practical level, of course, we do need things to happen. And we don't simply want to replace. Once again, it's the question of where is the real evil? Who are the tools, but where is the source? So very often what seems to happen when one elite is replaced with another is the elite which replaces it is even worse than the one that it replaced. So that's really the last thing we want to happen. So if we oppose them, we know what their weapons are. Their weapons are generally brute force, fear, that kind of thing. And that even on the mental level, that's what they're trying to induce: fear, panic, backed up with physical force. Now, so we need to rise above that, and it may seem that this video making for me is a total waste of time because hardly anybody's listening. And once again, I refer to that field, and I refer to perhaps personal growth, which may attract other people, sends out a message into that field, so to speak, because we're all like little transmitters. If that system, as I suspect it is right, we become transmitters. So what do we want to transmit? Do we want to transmit the good, the beautiful and the true, or do we want to transmit the ugly, the grotesque and total lies? It's our choice, it's where we have a choice. And as the psychological atmosphere changes, so will the physical atmosphere. People will get together and people will find ways, and hopefully those ways will largely be peaceful. We need a transition to something better, not a transition to some kind of chaos in which, well, at the very worst, millions die. So, make England good again, but do it peacefully, do it lawfully.